everyone, it's Shar and welcome back to my channel. First, I must apologize because we're gonna have a lot of background noise. I timed this poorly and the kids came home before I expected, as you can tell by the sweet serenade of my 1-year-old niece crying because her sister took a toy away from her. But anyway, I just want to say I was gone for like 2 or 3 weeks because I went on vacation to London. I studied abroad in London about 6 or 7 years ago, and I've always wanted to go back, and I finally did this August. I am fully vaccinated. I had to test for coronavirus 3 times in order to do this trip. They were negative all 3 times, thankfully. So I am back now, and I am back in the mood for recording, although I will say I am not in the mood to do editing for like an hour and a half long video, and that's how long it takes for me to record my Let's Plays. But I promise you, Whimsy Stories, our Cottage Living LP, and Not So Berry, as well as 100 Baby Challenge are coming back. Not So Berry, I am not 100% sure about, just because it's not a series I have the most fun with, but it's also the least popular series on my channel, which tells me you all don't really care about watching it. But if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. I got a bunch of new subscribers. Like, again, thank you so much. If you could see my face, you would see how much I'm grinning. I'm almost at 80, like I mentioned, and I had this channel for a couple of years, and literally for the past year and a half, it's been like at 30 or so that it jumped up to 80 is just so amazing. I just want to thank you for being here and for caring about my Sims and my Let's Plays and things like that. But anyway, I figured that today we're going to do a different kind of Create a Sim. If you see my other videos, my previous Create a Sims, I typically watch those videos like in the background. I'm not actively watching. I'm looking if there's some CC that catches my eye, but mostly I just have it as background noise. And I figured instead of me talking about random things in my life, which most of you know about already, you will know that I am an avid reader. I absolutely love reading. I said that very oddly, but don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I absolutely love reading. I have read about 22 books this month. As I'm recording it, it's August 26th. I am going to post this the day that you are seeing it, and I anticipate that I'll read like 4 or 5 more books throughout the month. So I figured, why not have this Create a Sim video, it's not part of any series or anything, be a conversation about some of my favorite books and some of my most disappointed books of the month. I'm not going to go over all of them because for me to sit here and talk about 22 books is going to take a really long time. So you enjoy the video of us making our Sim Parker. She is somewhat gothic. She's not really the kind of Sim I tend to make. She wants to be a vampire. Her dream is to find her, not Edward Cullen, maybe Damon. She's looking for him. So let's just talk about some of my absolute favorites of the read. And I realized I named her Parker subconsciously because the first book I read this month was Parker by Jack Harbin. A really good book, not one of my favorites. I enjoyed it, but it's very heavy on the domestic abuse, and one of the main characters is escaping abusive relationship. So content warnings all over the place, but it was still a really good book. So we'll just tell you some of my favorites. I absolutely loved I Wish You All the Best by Mason Deaver. Mason Deaver wrote this story. It is Own Voices about a non-binary character named Ben and what Ben has to go through as they move through their life, and they have been kicked out by their family and had to move in with their sister. So we follow Ben's life and how Ben comes to accept their non-binary identity. I really enjoyed it. I finished it in like 1 day. It was really fast-paced and just so sweet and so heartwarming and also heartbreaking. So I really enjoyed that book so much. Then I read Some Girls Do, and Some Girls Do did what She Drives Me Crazy did not do for me, and I loved it as well. We have 2 characters. One is an athlete and the other one is a beauty queen. It is female, and I, again, absolutely adored it. And then I read A Fake Boyfriend for Christmas, and that was really fun. If you liked red, white, and royal blue, and you just want to read something cute and lighthearted and fun, this is a really great book to read. It is set, as the title suggests, over the holidays in England. This is as I was preparing for my trip to London. So you can see how that went through. Actually, I'm confusing it. Same author. It's not A Fake Boyfriend for Christmas that I adored, although I did like this book. It is Prince Charming. That is set in the UK. That reminds me of Red, White, and Royal Blue. That was such a fun book. Again, I'm not going through everything. I'm just going to tell you the standout ones. I'm reading the Ice Planet Barbarian series right now. Listen, you go in for it because it's smut. Just go in with that expectation. They're very possessive alien men. These women have been kidnapped and they end up stranded on this icy planet that's inhospitable, and these alien men come and meet them. So that's what that's about. That's really enjoyable. One of my most disappointing reads of the month was Counting Down with You, and that's by Tashi Buhani. I am so butchering that, so I'm sorry I cannot pronounce that. I would need to hear it first, although I will make an effort to pronounce it correctly in my personal life. The reason why this is disappointing is I don't think I was the intended audience. The concept sounds really good. It's a fake dating kind of situation where our main character, Karina, her parents go to Bangladesh to be with their family. And she gets to be at home in New York City, which this is supposed to be based. I did not get New York City vibes at all. I live in New York City, so that's coming from me. But she essentially starts fake dating this guy that she is tutoring because he doesn't want his family to know that he's being tutored. Sounds something that I would like because Karina is a bookworm. She loves English. There's a lot of complexity in there. I just didn't like it. I didn't think I was the intended audience for it. It wasn't terrible. I give it a 3-star rating, but it was way too long for what it was and just was not my thing. But that's not to say it wouldn't be for you. I just didn't resonate with the YA-ness of it. It is a YA book, but it feels like younger YA and not like new adultish. Then a book that I also really adored. Oh my gosh, this became one of my favorites immediately, and that was A Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. Now, I loved An Enchantment of Ravens. I know that sometimes people read An Enchantment of Ravens and then don't like it as much as A Sorcery of Thorns, or vice versa. That is not the case at all. I love them both equally. If anything, I love Sorcery of Thorns even more. It's like books and the library is central. There are demons and sorcerers and some long plot of some evil coming into the world where the villain actually believes that he is a hero. But it is so good and I loved it, and it had my favorite character in the whole world, which is Silas. No spoilers, but if you've read the book, I high-key think that they are now having a polyamorous relationship, and good for them because I would have loved to see that in that sequel. There was just a lot of love between the characters and I freaking adored it. So then I had a book hangover because I was like, I need more fantasy romance. If you do not know my reading preference, because why would you? This is a Sims channel. I really like fantasy. I like low fantasy. I like magical realism. I like romance, and I like character-driven stories. The plot is secondary in my mind. If we have strong characters who are just fascinating, that is everything for me. So I use Storygraph to help me find a book that's similar. It recommended to me The Shadows Between Us, which is about this girl who intends to marry the king so she can assassinate him and become the queen and rule over the kingdom. Our girl really wants power. I love me a dark female lead. You know this, as I've mentioned. I really loved Chico when I was really young, so you can see where that love started. So I read this and it was everything I wanted. If you are looking for plot driven, this ain't the book for you. If you want a badass female character and a dark king who is doing some fucked up shit, this is your book. I'm not gonna have any major spoilers, but this could be counted as a spoiler. So if you're listening and you want to read The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller, please cover your ears, turn the video off, or just come back to it or skip ahead in like a second. But there's a scene in the book where she has a knife to this person's throat, and he says, "You don't have what it takes to kill me," and she immediately drives the knife through his throat. Like, that is the immaculate vibes we were going for. I adored this so much, and it immediately put me into like a fantasy romance mood. So I knew that I had to read some more. That led me to read some other series that Storygraph recommended. One of them was The Curse of the Black Cats by Lou Wilhelm. This was an interesting story, but it definitely read very much like a fairy tale kind of folklore, which wasn't really the vibes I was looking for. Plus, it was more novella length, so it didn't get the chance to go as in-depth as I wanted, but it was still a cute story, and I gave it 3 stars overall, and that's a generous 3 stars. If it was an honest star rating, it's 2.75, and I always give star ratings based on how much I enjoyed the story. I also, coming back to the sim on the screen, never really dressed my sims like this. I wanted to have some fun with Parker and just make her stand out more in the Sims world, because I'm still struggling with all of my sims kind of looking the same. And to be honest with you, by the time I put her hair on and realized her hair color, she reminded me a lot of Faye, who is my Whimsy Stories sim, but not enough for me to be like they're the exact same person. But back to books. Then I read The King's Spinster Bride, which is about this woman. She is a princess and her kingdom is being invaded by this, they call them the barbarian tribe. I don't like the word barbarian. Anyway, by this rivaling kingdom, it's being invaded. They're about to lose. Her father gets killed and they are holding the son of the rival kingdom hostage. And he's a little boy. He's like 8 years old. So she chooses to protect him. Her father dies. She becomes queen for a moment. And in her 10 minutes of being queen, she decides to halt all the killing and to just surrender for the sake of her people. She ends up having her life spared because she saved this little boy, and 16 years later, this boy has been completely obsessed with her, totally in love with her, feels he has some claim to her, and when his advisors recommend that he kill her because she's the last remaining royal line of their kind of kingdom they acquired, he says, nope, I'm gonna marry her. And that is where this story comes. It's very smutty, it's not plot driven, it is literally sex. But it is very enjoyable, and if you're looking for that kind of mood, I would recommend. I read a few graphic novels, but honestly, those are my standouts. If I could recommend one graphic novel to you, which you're still here in the video, so I'm assuming you're listening to my book recommendations, I would recommend Fangs by Sarah Anderson. It is about a werewolf and a vampire, and they fall in love, and it is just so cute and so funny and so lighthearted. I don't reread books very often, although I did a lot more this month. I went back to like my favorite scenes for a lot of books, but Fangs by Sarah Anderson is something that I reread 3 times in the 2 weeks I read it. It was just beautiful and something that you read if you're feeling down and just want to feel better or just have some kind of happiness, which, you know, sometimes that's a struggle. So that is all of my book recommendations. We're coming to the end of this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed my conversations about books that I loved and books that disappointed me. And I'm going to see you in my next video where we will likely be paying Whimsy Stories. So bye everyone.